In this segment, we're going to talk about one of the most difficult subjects when it comes to the GH1, which is lens selection. Now, with the GH1, because the flange distance between where the lens sits and where the sensor is so small, it means that the GH1 can be adapted to almost any lens from any camera out there. That also means that the amount of lenses that you can use that have autofocus and have aperture control are limited. Autofocus with the GH1 is limited mainly to the Panasonic line of lenses that they've released and a few other lenses, like there's one Olympus that can autofocus with the GH1. You can use aperture control with the GH1 with Olympus lenses and Panasonic lenses and any other 4/3 lens manufacturer. This is the stock lens that typically comes with every North American GH1. It's the 14-140 lens. It has mega optical image stabilization that does an incredible job of stabilizing the image, and it also has the ability, when it communicates with the GH1 compensates for the problems with the lens. What this does is it gives that stock lens an image quality that compares to a Canon L series lens. It's probably one of the best bundled lenses to ever come with a DSLR, even though the GH1 isn't really a DSLR because it doesn't have a mirror. But if you're getting the camera and you're in North America, well, you'll get that lens with the camera. If you're outside of North America or you import the camera, you have the option of not getting it, but I would definitely recommend using it. The biggest downfall of the lens is it's fairly slow. So outdoors, daylight, it'll be fine. If you're indoors and trying to film low light scenes, you're going to run into some trouble. As soon as you start zooming, it drops off to f5.6 very quickly. So it is a very slow lens for indoor use, but it is a fantastic lens for sharpness, and the image stabilization for using for video mode is the best out of any lens I've used with any DSLR. So where do we go from there? Well, there's several different levels of lenses. If you want to keep your aperture control and autofocus, the lenses you want to look into besides the stock lens are the Panasonic 7-14mm f4 lens, which will give you an even wider field of view than the stock lens, and also the 20mm f1.7 pancake lens. This lens is superbly sharp, autofocuses with the camera, and makes the camera a nice light package. Let's go a little further though. Let's say that you've invested in Canon lenses. Let's say that you've invested in Nikon lenses. What's your best bet for using and adapting lenses to the GH1? Well, first, the GH1, if you have modern Canon lenses, any of the EOS lenses, you will not be able to control the aperture at all with the GH1. With Nikon lenses, the G series lenses don't have an aperture ring. Those can be controlled by using different adapters from eBay, but you're not going to get autofocus confirm or any type of focusing control. For me, to switch between all these different cameras, to minimize the hassle, I use a lens that can be used on all different brands. And typically the best for that are using Nikon prime lenses. And each of these can be controlled separately from the different cameras. I use them on D90, I use them on the GH1, and I use them on the 7D or 5D. There's no problem interchanging the two. In a later tutorial, I'll make a video on how to adapt Nikon lenses to the camera. But with the GH1, it's actually simpler than most other brands adapting the lenses, so it becomes very, very simple. Along this same line, if you go by my lens recommendations from before, if you buy that for a Canon camera, none of those lenses that you get will be able to be used with the GH1. But if you were to get the Nikon versions of those lenses, so if you were to get the Nikon version of the Tokina 11-16, if you were to get the Nikon version of the Tamron 17-50, that can be used on the GH1, and it can also be used on the 7D, though you would not have autofocus on either camera, and you would have to manually set your aperture with the adapter ring. So if you're at a point right now where you still want those lenses and you have a 7D and a GH1, or you're thinking about a different brand of camera, your best bet is to get the Nikon version, because the aperture can be manually adjusted with a Nikon lens, whereas if you buy a Canon native lens, that can't be adjusted. Now, if you have a lot of money, and I'm talking about spending around $5,000 on lenses, there are a set of consumer still lenses that work on the GH1 with aperture control that are the fastest consumer still lenses available. This is the Olympus 14-35 f2 and the Olympus 35-100 f2, and that is f2 throughout the entire zoom range of that lens. So both of these lenses are f2 throughout their zoom range. That works fantastically with the GH1 because it's not quite as good in low light as, say, other cameras like the Canon cameras or even the Nikon cameras. But my real recommendation is, if you want to save money with the GH1 purchase, buy the GH1 with the stock lens, go on eBay, get some older prime Nikon lenses to use with the GH1 for low light. That way, in case an upcoming camera is better than the GH1, or if something changes in a few months, you won't have to change lenses again. You can just sell the body and keep the lenses.